It is clear to anyone watching that Sylvester Stallone, or Sly, as the world knows him, has driven his body to the absolute extreme. Now well into his 70s, many wonder if he should even still be standing. In the world of action cinema, it is not uncommon to get injured, but for Sly, it was always too much. He survived an acid attack and got back up. He was shot on screen and off, and he got back up. He even survived the psychological trauma of a mother who openly admitted she never wanted him. But there's one thing, one devastating blow, that he couldn't simply shake off. Reports eventually surfaced that a body was found, silent and alone, discovered 3 days after death. It is a reality that is simply hard to process. The roots of Stallone's iron will were forged in a cold, unforgiving environment. He recalls his mother saying, "The only reason you're here is because the hanger didn't work." She would tell him that if she thought there was truly something wrong with his brain, she would have opened the window, put him on the windowsill, and let him freeze. When you are young, naive, and foolish, you think maybe everyone's mother is like this. Because he never hung out with other families, he didn't know what a happy home actually looked like. By the time he was just 11 years old, Sylvester ran away to Philadelphia, chasing a mother who had already left him behind. The courts eventually forced him back to an abusive father, but the damage was permanent. He became a loose cannon, a boy seeking chaos because pain was the only language that felt familiar. Acting became his lifeline in a world determined to crush him. He didn't just want a job. He wanted to find something that would make him heroic. Caught up in the fiction of cinema, he would spend untold hours in theaters, sitting through the same movie 5 or 6 times. He wanted to lead a life of grandeur, of hard work and triumphs over evil. He had an innate hero worship, wishing he could be the guy who saved a bus full of children. He wanted to be the guy who saves people. He left home the first chance he got, but with no destination and barely a dime to his name, he wandered the dangerous streets of New York. His life was on the wane. He lived in bus stations and slept in alcoves. He had one coat, and that coat was his house. Every day was a battle, physical attacks, cars jumping curbs, people threatening him. He was emotionally, spiritually, and physically bankrupt. Yet, he clung to a single idea. He would make it. He knew he was an action hero, even if the world saw a man with a slur and drooping eyes. He was born in a charity ward after his mother, terrified of labor, stayed on a bus until the very last moment. He was brought into the world via an accident with forceps that paralyzed the nerves in his face, leaving him with a permanent snarl and a deep, slurred voice. Agencies told him he'd only ever be an extra or a thug. He decided then, this is no good. I don't want to act anymore. I'll write my own way out. Sylvester had no intention of being at the end of the credits. Isolating himself, he poured his frustrations into screenplays. When he finally scraped together enough cash, he bought a $40 car and drove 11 days to Hollywood. The car broke down exactly at Hollywood and Vine, a prophetic moment. With only $106 in the bank and a pregnant wife, he was forced to try and sell his dog, Butkus, because he couldn't afford to feed him. That hunger and the sound of the wolf at the door fueled him to write a script in just 3.5 days. He created a character, a street-like man misrepresented by his looks, a man people dismissed as a bully. The studios loved the script but hated the idea of him starring in it. They offered him $25,000, then $100,000, then $250,000 to just walk away. It eventually reached $360,000, unheard of money for a man living on cobwebs. His own agents called him crazy, but Sly knew if he sold the movie and watched someone else play the part, he would eventually leap in front of train. He rolled the dice. He pestered the producers, pressing his face to their windows and honking in their driveways until they gave in. The gamble paid off. Rocky became a cultural phenomenon, turning Stallone into a global icon overnight. But as the fantasy gates opened, Sly wrestled with the truth. He could never fully live up to the character he created. Even on the night he stood as an Oscar winner, he felt the sting of a familiar absence. He had invited his mother to the ceremony, but she refused to come unless her hairdresser was invited too. When Sly said there was no seat, she simply didn't go. That rejection drove him to push even harder for his own children, seeking a slice of immortality through them. But in that drive, he became obsessed. He performed stunts that nearly killed him. While filming with Dolph Lundgren, he told the actor to actually try to knock him out. One massive uppercut slammed Sly's heart against his ribcage, causing a pericardial sac injury usually seen in head-on car collisions. He spent 9 days in intensive care. Just hours after a jovial appearance to promote a new film, life delivered a blow that no training could prepare him for. The body of his eldest son, Sage Stallone, was discovered in his Los Angeles home. He was only 36. The death hit Sly harder than any role because there was no script to follow and no way to rewrite the ending. Grief, he realized, never truly goes away. It just rises into the clouds and waits to cycle back. He began to feel the subtraction of life. Friends moving on, children moving out, and the crushing weight of loss. The nightmare continued when his daughter needed life-saving heart surgery just months later. Standing in the hospital, he watched his daughter put on a brave face while he and his wife fell apart. He realized then that he had spent too much time making stupid movies instead of making their lives. Searching for a sign, he brought his family back to the steps in Philadelphia where it all began. He showed his daughters the spot where he wrote the most important lines of his life. He recited the speech he had written for them, that the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It will beat you to your knees if you let it. It isn't about how hard you hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Looking at his family, Sly realized he was the luckiest man alive. His legacy wasn't just a movie. It was the fact that every single day, people still run up those steps to throw their arms in the air. He had found a way to exemplify the moment a man fails and then succeeds. His time as the underdog has passed, but his message remains. Look out there, see your vision, go after your dream, and no matter how hard you get hit, keep moving forward.